Aroa is a beautiful and cheerful girl with a mischievous smile. She loves teasing her upperclassman, Akiteru, finding every chance to get under his skin. To him, it looks like she's just being playful, but deep down, her teasing hides something more complicated. She's secretly in love with him, even if she refuses to admit it. Akiteru, on the other hand, sees her as nothing but a nuisance. Serious and easily annoyed, he believes Aroa only exists to ruin his peace. The episode starts with Akiteru returning to his dorm, hoping for a bit of peace. But as soon as he reached the hallway, a loud noise came from his room. Someone was singing, and not quietly. The sound was so strong it echoed through the walls. Akiteru froze for a moment, trying to calm his irritation, but the voice only grew louder. He sighed deeply and clenched his jaw. Inside, sprawled comfortably on his bed, was none other than Iroha, singing her heart out without a care in the world. Her carefree attitude only fueled his frustration. Finally, Akiteru snapped. He stormed into his room and yanked the power cord from the outlet, cutting off the music instantly. But Iroha, completely unfazed, simply turned around and greeted him cheerfully, as if he were the one intruding. She even scolded him for being rude, saying he shouldn't barge into someone's room without knocking. That smug tone made him even angrier because this was his own room. She was the trespasser. Trying to stay calm, Akiteru told her to keep the volume down before she disturbed the other residents. He even pointed at her headphones as a hint. But instead of listening, Iroha smirked and teased him, suggesting he just wanted an excuse to touch her. Akiteru shut her down coldly, saying he had no interest in her childish antics. Still, she didn't stop. She joked that he'd been trying to peek while she was changing and even threatened to call the police. In truth, Akiteru was the one who should have been calling them. She had broken into his room, after all. For a moment, he actually considered it, but deep down, he knew no one would believe him over her. Iroha was good at playing the victim. She clearly enjoyed asserting her control over him. At one point, she even flopped down on his bed, emphasizing her chest just to mess with him. Embarrassed, Akiteru looked away, but she had hidden his dorm key between her chest, the same key he had once given her for emergencies. Apparently, emergency meant showing up whenever she pleased. Iroha kept pushing his buttons, teasing that once she left, he'd end up missing her and fantasizing about her. That was the final straw. Akiteru grabbed his spray bottle from his desk and sprayed water right in her face. She gasped in shock, and another round of bickering began. Eventually, Iroha tried to justify herself, saying she was practically like his little sister since she was his friend's sibling. But Akiteru rejected that completely. To him, she was nothing but a stranger who wouldn't leave him alone. Still, she continued to tease, smiling every time he got flustered. Just then his phone rang. It was his uncle, Makoto. Akiteru glared at Iroha, warning her not to make a sound because this call was important. She reluctantly nodded, but there was mischief in her eyes. Makoto was the president of HP Do, one of the country's biggest entertainment companies. He had heard about Akiteru's recent bold move, applying to the company without taking the proper entrance exam. Makoto wasn't too happy about it, but since Akiteru was family, he said he'd consider helping him under certain conditions. Then Makoto's tone changed. He suddenly asked if Akiteru had a girlfriend. The question caught both Akiteru and Iroha off guard. Iroha's eyes immediately sparkled. Clearly, she was plotting something. Akiteru noticed and gave her a sharp look, warning her to stay quiet. But of course, she didn't listen. Instead, she started making strange sounds beside him, loud enough for his uncle to hear through the phone. Panicking, Akiteru quickly lied, saying it was just his new cat. Unfortunately, when Makoto asked about the cat's name and breed, Akiteru stumbled over his answers. Iroha only made things worse, mewing and giggling under her breath. Desperate, Akiteru pretended the cat was attacking him to make the situation sound real. But Makoto wasn't fooled. He began to suspect Akiteru had a girlfriend. Flustered, Akiteru denied it immediately. Strangely, that seemed to satisfy Makoto. He ended the call on a positive note, saying they would discuss his application in more detail soon. After the call, Iroha rolled around on Akiteru's bed, pretending to be thirsty. Tired of her games, he simply told her to get her own drink. She cheerfully skipped away, leaving him alone in his frustration. The next day, during a free period, Akiteru sat by the window, quietly writing in his notebook. His thoughts drifted to life, death, and his promise to use every moment to build a better future. Soon, his best friend Ozuma dropped into the seat beside him, exhausted. Akiteru had taken notes for him earlier, and Ozuma thanked him with a grateful smile. To return the favor, Ozuma invited him for dinner after class. Akiteru admired his friend deeply. Ozuma always seemed calm, dependable, and kind. But Ozuma turned the compliment back at him, saying Akiteru had a good heart and cared about others more than he realized. The conversation shifted when Ozuma mentioned his sister. He assumed she had visited Akiteru again, and when Akiteru admitted it, Ozuma laughed and teased that maybe she had a crush on him. Akiteru disagreed immediately. In his mind, Iroha only liked to mess around. Azuma suggested that maybe teasing was her way of showing affection, but Akitoru couldn't believe that. He thought if she truly liked him, she wouldn't torment him so much. Their talk ended when the fiery homeroom teacher entered, snapping at everyone to sit down. Class began and the rest of the day passed quickly. After class, one of Akitoru's classmates rushed over saying a cute first-year girl was waiting for him at the door. Sure enough, Iroha stood there smiling sweetly. Akitoru frowned immediately and told her to drop the act, but she kept pretending to be shy and innocent in front of everyone. When she asked to walk home together, Akitoru refused. But she didn't stop there. She told everyone they were a couple. The entire class gasped, leaving Akitoru frozen in shock. Iroha even pretended to cry, claiming he was trying to hide their relationship. At that exact moment, Ozuma walked in looking confused. Iroha quickly told him that she and Akitoru were going home together alone, making things even worse. Panicked, Akitoru grabbed her hand and dragged her outside to talk. Once they were alone, he demanded an explanation. Iroha grinned and said she did it for his sake. She had overheard his phone call with Makoto and figured pretending to be his girlfriend would make him look good. She smugly added that since she was out of his league, he should consider it a privilege. But Akitoru wasn't amused. He scolded her for interfering with his future and told her to stop playing games. Before he could leave, Iroha suddenly hugged him from behind. Her voice softened. She told him the future didn't matter, what mattered was the present, and that she cared about him deeply. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered that she wanted them to stay close forever. For a moment, Akitoru's heart softened. He thought she was finally being sincere. But then, Iroha burst into laughter, teasing him for actually falling for her act. Akitoru's face turned red as she continued to giggle, calling him cute for blushing. That was the last straw. Furious, Akitoru shouted that he'd never believe anything she said again and chased her down the hallway. But she escaped before he could catch her. Later that day, Akitoru met with his uncle Makoto at a cafe to discuss his HP application. Makoto mentioned someone else would be joining them but wanted to speak privately first. He praised Akitoru's earlier success, a small game he produced with his team, the Fifth Floor Alliance. Akitoru explained that there were 5 of them. Ozuma as the programmer, himself as producer and director, and 3 others who worked hard alongside them. Makoto admitted he was impressed, even he couldn't have achieved that much as a student. Before continuing, Makoto encouraged Akitoru to order something. As the waitress came by, Makoto casually flirted with her, even asking her out for dinner right in front of his nephew. Akitoru was speechless, embarrassed by his uncle's shamelessness. Needing a moment to breathe, Akitoru excused himself to the bathroom, but didn't notice the sign on the door that said the lock was broken. When he pushed the door open, he accidentally walked in on a girl, Mashiro, sitting on the toilet. Horrified, he froze, and the girl immediately punched him in the stomach out of pure embarrassment. Moments later, back at the table, Makoto introduced the same girl, Mashiro, as the other guest. To Akitoru's shock, she was his cousin, Makoto's daughter, and his childhood playmate. He hadn't recognized her at all. Then Makoto revealed his real plan. He wanted Akitoru to act as Mashiro's fake boyfriend. In exchange, he'd approve Akitoru's application to HPW. Both cousins were stunned. Mashiro immediately called the idea ridiculous, but Makoto remained firm. He explained that Mashiro would soon transfer from an all-girls school to a co-ed one, and he wanted someone trustworthy to watch over her. Still, Mashiro refused. When Akitoru asked why she needed to transfer, she refused to answer, and Makoto avoided explaining too much. The only thing he revealed was that Mashiro had been skipping school a lot. She was a truant student. Hearing that, Akitoru didn't push any further. He understood there was reason enough for concern. In the end, Akitoru accepted the deal, knowing it could help his entire team get into HPW. Mashiro, though reluctant, finally agreed too, on one strict condition. Their relationship would stay completely fake. Akitoru offered his hand to seal the agreement, but Mashiro refused to shake it, still holding a grudge over the bathroom incident. Watching the two of them bicker, Makoto smiled, confident they'd get along someday, though both disagreed immediately. Before leaving, Makoto reminded Akitoru that since this was only an act, he wasn't allowed to fall in love with Mashiro for real. Akitoru brushed it off, certain that wouldn't be a problem. After all, she clearly disliked him anyway. That marks the end of today's Animerecap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.